Science and religion were at constant war with each other in ancient times. Textual evidence suggests that philosophers who expressed any contrary opinion faced a series of impiety trials. I mean, who is not familiar with Galileo? In the 5th century BC, science was not as well developed as it is today. Many philosophers used logic and reasoning to explain the world around them. Some of them were quite rich, and their beliefs were accepted solely due to that. I'm sorry, but it is true. A Greek philosopher named Democritus, also known as the laughing philosopher, started the talk about particles composing matter. There were two different kinds of realities composing the natural world: atoms and void. He said that a void or a vacuum is an infinite space with an infinite number of particles moving in that space. All changes in the world around us were brought about by the relocation of these particles, which were described as solid spheres. While the atoms are eternal, the objects they compose are not. These particles were considered so small that they cannot be made any smaller. They were indivisible. The Greek adjective for this is atomos or atomon, and that is where the atom got its name from. Democritus reasoned that if a stone were to cut into smaller and smaller pieces, at some point it would become too small to be divided again. He said that the atoms of different materials differ in quality. For example, atoms of water are smooth and therefore roll off each other, whereas the atoms of wood are coarse, have spikes on its surface, and therefore stick together, forming solid. Such ideas had no scientific value. They were not based on observations of nature, any measurements, or experiments. One of the most influential philosophers of ancient Greece, Aristotle, did not believe in the atomic theory, and this discouraged several others from believing as well. He believed that all the substances were made of small amounts of the four elements named earth, water, air, and fire. This led to the atomic theory being overlooked for about 2000 years. The experiments performed later on proved Aristotle incorrect, and his teachings were not presented in the modern view of the atom. In the 18th century, the German scientist Georg Ernst Stahl introduced the concept of phlogiston. According to him, every combustible substance contained a component of fire called phlogiston. It came from the Greek word for inflammable. Coal, when burned, lost weight, and this decrease was reasoned as the loss of its phlogiston component. Disagreement came due to the reverse reaction. When metals were strongly heated in air, the resulting substance weighed more than the original. Lavoisier was introduced to these concepts by his lecturer. The results of his own experiments could not be explained by this concept. In August 1774, Lavoisier met Joseph Priestley in Paris. Priestley described his recent experiment with mercury calyx, which resulted in a gas in which a candle burned vigorously. He called it the dephlogisticated air. The curious Lavoisier repeated this experiment with other metal calyces. He concluded that the air we breathe is composed of a component which combines with the metal, supported respiration, and another component which did not help in combustion or respiration. According to him, combustion was the reaction between a metal and a part of air he termed eminently respirable. In his announcement to the Royal Academy of Sciences in Paris, he said that most acids contain this breathable air. He named it oxygen, which came from the two Greek words for acid generator. This theory gave a blow to Stahl's phlogiston theory. He even made water from oxygen and hydrogen. The gases were introduced into the flask, and a spark was generated which produced water. Lavoisier's contributions led him to be regarded as a founder of the science. Such experiments paved way to the new atomic model.